If you ever wanted to start a career in IT, but you are not sure where to start, you will find out by watching this video. And I know what I'm talking about, because I did exactly that. I used to work as a construction engineer, then I changed my profession and I became a CNC machine setter operator, and that's what I did for many years actually. But then I successfully switched again, and this time to IT industry. And I think I always wanted to work in IT, but I had no idea where to start. Honestly, I didn't even know what it really means to work in IT. When I was a teenager, I bought my first computer. I was around 16 years old, and I thought that people who sell those computers, who worked in the shops, like you've got PC World in UK or Micro Center in US, I thought those people who sell the computers and the components, I thought they were working in the IT industry. That was obviously wrong. And if you work in a shop, you are a salesman. And being a salesman as a profession, it's not part of the IT. And so later, when I learned how to install a fresh copy of Windows on my PC and how to replace its graphic card, I thought maybe that was IT. Maybe if you fix computers for other people and charge them the money, maybe that means you work in IT. Well, but the truth is, no, that is also not IT, but it's a bit closer, but it's still not IT. What does that IT person do exactly? And how can I start my career in IT? IT is short for Information Technology, and that information part refers to the data that needs to be accessed. This video you are watching right now can be considered an information. So it is that data you are accessing right now. And information technology encompasses everything related to this piece of data. In this case, it's just this video. For example, we need to store this video somewhere. I mean, if you do not watch it, it still needs to reside on a server hard drive or, I don't know, network attached storage or some other storage solution. But then if you want to watch it, you simply click a button in your browser, and there are many moving parts working in the background to deliver this video through the computer network to your computer or laptop and then display it on your monitor. But then later on, when you log on to your Facebook account maybe, there is again a lot of data you want to access, and in fact there is many types of information you can access there. I mean, it's mixed type of data on Facebook, because you have some pictures, you have some videos, and you also have some posts from your friends and family. And that information also needs to be stored somewhere. It has to be delivered to your smartphone or laptop, and it has to be done in a secure way as well. Then yet again, some people also might have a system at work that needs to access yet another type of data, because maybe they have some database working in the background, and they have to retrieve a data that is stored there on that database, and it's in very specific format. And their system then has to process that data to display this information that they need. I mean, for example, a cashier in your local shop scans a barcode of a product, and then the price of this product is retrieved from the database, along with current discounts and other information about the product that has just been scanned. So everything we are talking about, how this data is stored in the database, or how this video is stored somewhere on the hard drive, and how it's all initially configured, and how it's maintained, this is what information technology is all about. Think of the IT industry as a group of people who help make all of this happen. So you have network engineers who know how to transfer information from one place to another. They know how that data travels between different networks. You have database engineers who understand how to store and access the data from that database. You've got systems administrators who configure and maintain servers so that information can be served to people in a secure and efficient way. And then there are various types of software engineers who write programs, like this software running on that shop till. Or other programmers work on different types of software like Facebook or Netflix, ensuring that those platforms are up to date and they function as expected. You've got some software engineers that focus on creating new computer games, so you can play them on your PC or PlayStation. You've got also embedded systems software engineers who write software for very specific use cases, such as cars, washing machines, coffee makers, so not for generic computers, but for very specific devices and very specific scenarios. You might also hear terms like front-end, back-end, or full-stack software engineer, but we will discuss it shortly. However, that's not all. The IT industry is really vast, and there are countless of people working in IT that don't necessarily have to be even technical. And you might wonder, how is that even possible? How can someone non-technical still work in IT? And honestly, this is quite normal. For example, you could be running IT services for other customers or expanding your internal IT systems. That will require people like customer success managers, project managers, business development executives, and many other individuals responsible for various areas in IT industry. But these roles may not necessarily require technical knowledge, but they do require more social skills. Alright, but I think that's enough. How do you land your first job in IT then? And I'd say there is one obvious and one a little bit less obvious route to this goal. The obvious route is to attend university, obtain a degree, and then secure a placement or find an IT job with that degree. And I will not discuss that route in detail, because this is somewhat self-explanatory. This is actually also lengthy and usually expensive option, and it is not the path that I chose. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that route, but there are many ways to enter the IT field without formal education. I will explain how to get into IT based on the most popular technical professions, like software engineer, systems administrator, and a network engineer. I will also show you how you can transition further into DevOps or cloud administrator, as both DevOps and cloud computing are relatively new areas in IT, but with a huge demand for skilled engineers. And in fact, I currently work as a DevOps and cloud administrator, so I will share what exactly my path looked like. So let's first take a look at these professions and what they entail. And I will start with network administrators, but we can include also similar roles like network engineer, network architect, and others. So network admin is responsible for creating, configuring, and maintaining computer networks. The largest computer network is the internet, and one of the options is to work directly with that. You can aim to work for a local ISP, for example, which is Internet Service Provider. You would need to understand how information flows through various networks among these service providers, which means you should be familiar with technologies like BGP, MPLS, and IS-to-IS, amongst others. But I don't want to use too many acronyms that may be confusing at this stage, but you should keep in mind that Internet Service Provider is just one of the places where you could work as a network engineer. There are many companies with large data centers that require on-site presence to manage those data centers and servers and the network devices that are in that data center. But there are many other places, some companies may not even have their own data center, but even their internal computer network, within the building, is so complex that they require many network engineers on site just to keep everything up and running. Then you can also work for a managed services company, where you could serve as a network engineer or support engineer, resolving networking issues not for your company, but for other businesses. Because these other businesses, may choose not to have their own technical resources, and instead they prefer to pay another company, like the one you work in, that already has a team of skilled engineers for support and maintenance. So they hire you to do the job, and that's it. I mean, the other business has an agreement with the company you work in. This way you can be responsible for resolving networking issues for many other companies. And network engineering is actually how I started my journey, so I can share how I did it exactly. I bought some books on Amazon and I self-studied for a while still working on those CNC machines. And then when I felt ready, I booked and I passed the CompTIA A+ exam. And you can do the same, you can do it yourself by scheduling it through, I don't know how it's pronounced, Pearson. You can see the link displayed. This is where you can simply go, find the closest location, and you can go, and if you pass, they will issue official certificate that you can then add to your CV. And once I had that CompTIA A+, I then decided to go further and pass also CompTIA Network Plus and then Cisco CCNA exam. And only after obtaining all those 3 certificates, I started looking for a job with no previous IT experience, just having those 3 certifications in hand. And to be honest, it took me a few months and many interviews, because you need to know that landing your first IT job is the most challenging task. However, I managed to secure my first job as a NOC engineer, it's a Network Operating Center engineer, and this job included both day shifts and night shifts. During the day shift, we had a separate service desk that would log support tickets describing customers' issues. And those tickets, or customer problems, would be then passed to us to resolve them. So we were essentially the first line of network support. And if we couldn't resolve an issue due to lack of technical knowledge, it would be then escalated to a second line network engineers, and if they couldn't fix it, we had a group of network consultants as a last resort. On the night shift though, we acted not only as first line engineers, but also as a service desk, as our service desk only operated during the day. So on nights, we were essentially performing both jobs. And the pay wasn't great, but what was invaluable was the opportunity to learn from those tickets. It was a real goldmine. I remember I would write down some of the issues, like the ticket numbers, I would write down the ones that I couldn't resolve myself. And I would revisit those notes about a week later to see how the second line engineers or network consultants resolved that issue. And I believe I learned more from those tickets than from anything else. That role really helped me transition to proper network engineer position later on, and then to senior network engineer, and ultimately to DevOps and Cloud roles. While working with other engineers, I noticed that my path was not the common one though. Most engineers usually started either in service desk role without any certificates or other technical knowledge, or they started in the help desk position with a Cisco CCNA certification. So they didn't have that CompTIA ones, they went straight for Cisco CCNA. And that will depend because some companies might have service desk roles that do not require technical knowledge, while others prefer to have help desk as the customer-facing front end, which does require some technical skills. And for those positions, they may want specific certifications to secure that job, that position. If you go, for example, to Indeed.com, which is a very popular website where jobs are advertised, you can try and search for roles like service desk support, IT support, service desk analyst, help desk support, or maybe help desk coordinator. And if you go through them, you should gain a good overview of what is required to land that job. And these positions are great entry points for everyone, I would say. And once you secure one, it will provide you with a solid overview of what you need to learn next to progress further up the ladder. Okay, but that's network engineering. What about the systems administrator, commonly known as SysAdmin? The fact is, you can follow a very similar path, but you first need to decide which operating system you want to work with, because that will determine your route you should take. And the most popular operating systems are Linux, Windows, and MacOS. And Windows and MacOS are generally more user-focused, while Linux is much more server-focused. So the job you do might look completely different depending on the path that you choose. For example, if you choose the Windows path, your job will typically involve Windows Server administration. For example, there is a feature called Active Directory that manages and authenticates all users within a corporate network, meaning that you may occasionally need to troubleshoot even customer machines if they can't log into certain systems. Additionally, the company might run various Windows applications that you would need to manage as well, so working with Windows can entail different responsibilities depending on the organization. Microsoft also offers and integrates many services with their cloud solution, which is called Azure, which adds several moving parts to the role. So overall, in my opinion, the path for Linux is much clearer than it is for Windows. And if you think that Linux as an operating system is not that popular, just have a look at those statistics. 96% of the top web servers use Linux. 100%, so all supercomputers run on Linux. Also remember that Android is based on Linux kernel, meaning that 80% of all phones are also powered by Linux. I can tell you, I'm currently responsible for over 200 servers in the AWS cloud, and all of those servers are either Linux or Unix servers. We don't have a single Windows server. So if you hear that Linux is not popular, that's only true if you look at the desktop operating systems, such as the ones running on your PC or laptop. But when it comes to anything server-related or mobile phone-related, Linux holds a vast majority of the market. And if Linux is the path you choose, then the certifications you should aim for include CompTIA Linux Plus, or Red Hat Certified Engineer, or Linux Professional Institute Certification. It's called LPIC. I also recommend experimenting with a free software called Proxmox. It is a virtualization platform that allows you to run multiple Linux distributions and other operating systems actually. You can run them simultaneously, and it will also help you grasp virtualization concepts like a device, pass-through, and among others. You can build your home server based on Proxmox as well, which, as I said, is free of charge, and that experience could be extremely beneficial for your career in the future. So now let's say you obtain one of those certificates and you want to find a job. So the path for service desk, IT support and help desk still applies. You can search for those terms to find the positions that require system administration skills rather than networking skills. But additionally, you can also look for terms like junior IT systems administrator, junior office administrator, or you can try broader terms like Linux or Red Hat and just go through them to see where you would match best as a candidate. Okay, next we have software engineers. And to become a software engineer without a degree, you will need to take a little different path than the ones previously mentioned. Because there isn't a single certification that you can just obtain and then immediately start applying for roles. Instead, well, first of all, you have to decide what type of software engineer you want to become. For example, a front-end software engineer is responsible for developing the user interface, which is why it's called front-end, because that's what the customer interacts with when accessing the application. User interface is simply what is displayed on their monitor. So then you have back-end software engineers. And as you might have guessed, this role focuses more on programming the applications and interfaces that work in the back, so it's not seen on the monitor, yes? You can think of databases, servers, and other components that have to operate in the back, and this functionality is not visible to the user accessing the application, but it's essential for displaying the results on the user interface developed by front-end developers. Then you also have full-stack engineers who can work on both front-end and back-end of the application. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there are also game developers, embedded software engineers, and many other specializations. Therefore, it's important to conduct your own research to determine what type of developer you want to become in the first place. It's very important because this decision will shape your learning path. So once you decided what type of software developer you want to become, you learn some programming language. Maybe it's Python, let's say, if you want to work with AI or with the automation. And once you develop your skills and you start feeling confident as a software engineer, you should create some projects and publish them to public repositories like GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. Then you can provide those links to these projects on your CV and potential employers can evaluate your work. So during the interview, they may ask you about your programming decisions. I mean, why you wrote something this way and not that way, for example. But an interesting fact is that many software developers, at least the ones that I met, initially started in service desk or help desk roles as well. And when they were in that role, only then they realized they wanted to become software developers. I believe that service desk and help desk path, can be beneficial for all IT jobs. That's because it might help you clarify what you want to pursue next in your career. So I'd say everybody should start maybe in service desk or help desk. However, how you achieve your goals can vary, significantly depending on the chosen path later on. But help desk is a great starting point. Alright, last but not least, the DevOps and Cloud administration. Let me tell you, both of those roles are generally not considered entry-level positions. They are typically paths you choose after gaining some experience in one of the previously mentioned roles. For example, my path was as follows. I started as that NOC engineer, yes? Then I transitioned to a network engineer. Then I swapped the job again and I became Senior Network Engineer, then started working as NetOps Engineer. That involved a mix of on-premise and cloud solutions actually. And finally, I moved into DevOps and Cloud Administration. You can also become DevOps or Cloud Admin if you have background as a SysAdmin or software engineer. In fact, I think most DevOps have their backgrounds in software engineering. I don't know, I don't have any statistics, but that's from just my personal experience, from what I see. Also bear in mind that these are just rough guidelines. I know, for example, individuals who secured junior DevOps positions as their first job after earning their degrees. So it does happen. What I'm emphasizing is that, especially if you take the self-taught path, you are much more likely to succeed if you don't set the bar too high right from the start. You might become discouraged if no one wants to hire you, but the actual issue might be simply that you are aiming too high without any experience or credibility. Remember that the most important goal for you should be to just get your foot in the door. Once you do that, you will gain the experience needed to advance further in your career, and it will be much easier to do it this way. Regarding learning resources, you will find a lot of free materials here on YouTube, and obviously it includes the Automation Avenue channel, this channel, but I wanted to mention that if you prefer course-like format, training course-like format, then I want to encourage you to visit the official Automation Avenue platform. You will find learning resources for all the paths mentioned in this video, and you can test it for free. It's free of charge for 1 day, it's a free trial, and then if you find it's helpful, it's just £9 a month, monthly subscription, and you can cancel it anytime you want. £9 is around $11, I think, right now. And, for something that could potentially change your life, I believe that price is quite reasonable. That's all what I wanted to share today. I hope I've clarified those paths for you, so thank you for watching.